Right, the search and rescue and recovery operations are now over at the collapsed building in George. Rescuers revised their tally of 81 people at the site at the time of the disaster down to 62. That means all bodies have been accounted for. The death toll is 33. So what can be done to stop something like this from happening ever again? We're joined by Mohammed Ali, who is the MD of Worldwide Industrial and Systems Engineers. Mr. Ali, thank you. Buildings, it's often been said in the past week or so, they aren't built to collapse. Firstly, how unusual was what happened here?
It's actually quite a tragedy and quite sad indeed. South Africa has a good reputation when it comes to construction as a whole because we follow specific standards and we uphold our construction regulations quite highly. But I think also it's been coming for a while. There's been a push-pull from a customer point of view as well as a contractor point of view. We are compromising on quality, we're compromising on time, and obviously compromising on cost. And the repercussions of those compromises are what has effectively been happening. And it's actually quite sad because South Africa is known globally to hold the standards of being able to develop infrastructure. I know there's multiple countries around the world that use us as case studies to say how wonderful our infrastructure is. But unfortunately, this disaster was a long time coming.
So how many contractors are cutting corners? And then, of course, there are also inspectors. So are we doing the monitoring? What is not happening that should be happening?
I think there is no accountability being taken by the contractors. I think clients are hiring contractors that feel that can do the job at the most cost-effective way, and contractors are cutting costs. You have a bill of quantities. You've got a quantity surveyor who's a professional who will tell you exactly the amount of bricks, the amount of cement, and exactly what's required to be able to put up a structure. There are standards in place. The SANS 10400, which is your construction regulations. This basically guides us and regulates us in this country in terms of the methodologies and all the elements from the particular structure to the particular electrical to the piping, mechanical, you name it. But the regulatory body, I feel, are not holding the contractors accountable, and there's no consequence management put in place. With all due respect, we need to empathize with what has happened, but I'm looking towards now what the Department of Labor will do, because this is something that cannot reoccur again. And our regulations are not being enforced, and these are the consequences of these particular standards not being followed. And a lot of contractors, mind you, whether large or small, are actually cutting corners. And the side effect of this is unfortunately what you see right now.
You mentioned the Labour Department, and we know that most of those who were brought out of the building alive or unfortunately dead were foreign workers. We know that we don't give skills-based visas for unskilled workers. So maybe, and certainly we don't know right now, but could it suggest that there was some cutting of corners in terms of who you hire? And that would be a huge concern. We need to know.
100%. I think we're all looking forward to the incident accident investigation. But I think what needs to be understood is when a contractor is given a contract, they will now go and look at what the best way to maximize their profit would be and minimize the cost. And unfortunately, they go out and they speak to the gentlemen that are out there looking for piece jobs who are generally foreigners. And now the regulations that you come in. So when you come onto site, there needs to be a safety agent on site. They need to look at a safety file. There's a standard they need to follow. We need to verify their competency. We need to make sure they understand the risks. We need to make sure there's a level of an understanding of the policies and procedures that are embedded. All of these things looks like they were cut. And generally being because contractors were looking at maximizing the profits. We should be able to hold the contractor accountable, the regulatory body accountable, and sadly we need to now empathize with what has happened, but we need to take much more precaution towards this, because I think even the current structures that are currently on hold, there's standards in place that we need to do non-destructive testing. I can generally give you with a lot of confidence that this has not been done. And even the structures we are now going to, whether or not they're safe for us to be able to go and be able to do our working or just general work in general.
Yeah, it doesn't inspire confidence at all. So what should happen? You've alluded to it with really holding people to account. Which departments really should this be a wake-up call for, and who in the industry?
There's a couple. I think the South African constructions or the SAC PMP have now looked at an organization called Agreement South Africa, ASA. They're now looking at becoming the regulatory body of managing these contractors and construction workers. You've got eNCA, the Engineering Council of South Africa, holding the particular mechanical, electrical engineers accountable for specific decisions when they're registered. So those are in place. But I think the focus needs to be around the safety side of things. You've got the South African Institute of Occupational Health and Safety. There needs to be more spot checks done. We need to be able to ensure that the contractors have systems in place. They have policies, they have processes, they are following a specific standard, a local standard. The Sandstand 400 is there for us to be able to open up and be able to define what exactly we need to do from a foundation perspective. There are particular processes that need to be followed. We need to train and upskill, and then we need to have these inspections done. We need to call these regulatory bodies more often than none to be able to ensure that the entire construction phase is following the particular process. And I don't think we're doing that as often as we should. And this is generally because there's a lot of corners cut throughout the process. And unfortunately, we're not holding people accountable. I think, in my opinion, yes, we need to identify what the root cause is for this particular investigation, but we need to go back to the basics. We need to start putting processes in place, following the standards, ensuring that the right regulatory bodies are coming to inspect us.
All right, thank you. That was the MD of Worldwide Industrial and System Engineers, Mohammed Ali. We appreciate your time.